Hello, welcome to another episode of Showboys. My name is Mike, and as always, I'm joined by my favoriteest co-host ever, Nick. How's it going, Nick?
It's me. I'm here. I'm going good. I took a nap
Oh,
just before this, so I'm feeling, as you would say, crispy.
nice. And as you can see, if you're watching the video on YouTube or the live stream here, we're joined by special guests, Noah and Derek from A Bite of Podcast. How's it going, guys?
Good.
Going well.
Yeah. Did you take a nap like in that 30-second lead in?
Yeah, that was it. Power nap.
Yeah, I love how like on the bottom of the studio, like we were all kind of just dancing a little bit, and it's kind of wishing that that was shown. But yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. Yeah, I could. Nobody else could. Maybe Nick could, but
No.
If you're not dancing to the 30-second countdown, what are you doing, really?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, so there's a little behind the scenes. Every episode before, I've been dancing during the 30-second lead-in. And maybe one day, once we upgrade our StreamYard account, we'll be dancing to the Showboys intro song and not that StreamYard intro song. But yeah, before we move on, I feel like I should walk back what I said. Nick, you are one of my favorite co-hosts, but I just remembered we actually have more than one co-host on Showboys. So
Yeah.
Chad, Jordan, I'm sorry. You're all my favorite.
I don't have a favorite.
Yeah,
You're my favorite.
You're all my favorite. Just Nick's
Out of
more
my
favorite.
favorites, you're my favorite.
Yeah,
You could tell. You could tell he has multiple children.
Very true. But yeah, so I thought, we've had a couple episodes. I think we've done it once a month where we invite on some fellow podcasters, friends that I've met in my podcasting journey, and interview them, ask them about their shows, and what got them into podcasting, all that sorts of fun stuff. So I thought it would be a great time to bring on Noah and Derek, as their last season was covering WandaVision, which just ended this weekend. So what a time to have them on. So I guess before we get started, why don't you guys just go ahead and plug A Bite of and tell us a little bit about it?
Ooh, it's always a daunting thing to plug it. It's like we do it all the time, but then when you're asked, it's like, what is our show about? Yeah, so I mean, our show, we take, just to play on words, we take bite-sized pieces of a pop culture property that is our current obsession, and we go through the entire thing. So you kind of get the whole thing, but it's not in, 2-3 hour long episodes. And so what we did with WandaVision is, first episode, we talked about everything we think you should know, and then we did every single episode recap, breakdown, talked about fan theories. But if you look at our past catalog, our first season was Midnight Sun, the Twilight, prequel that came out. That's what started this. We were like, you know what would be funny? To talk about this thing that nobody cares about.
But
Nice.
that's the thing, is that we say, in our intro, we say we take a bite of our current favorite pop culture obsession. And that's really what it is that whatever we're kind of jamming to and we're enjoying, we want to share that with the world. And that's what we're going to talk about. So that's kind of how it started. We both were like, do you want to read Midnight Sun? Do you want to read Midnight Sun? We're going to read Midnight Sun. Let's let everybody in the world know that we're reading Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer.
Right.
Nice. So you guys are basically the exact opposite of us, where we talk about our topics in like giant Thanksgiving meals. Like we have marathon episodes over here. But no, I really enjoy what you guys do, and the episodes that I've listened to, some of the Bly Manor episodes. That was fun. Listened to some of the Mandalorian episodes. That was fun. And then, of course, all of the WandaVision episodes as the, season played out. And it was a great time. And you guys really do a good job over there. You guys really go deep. And I can appreciate that for sure.
Thanks. Yeah, once we finished Midnight Sun, we were like, okay, let's talk about things that we like are super passionate about, and like other people will listen to.
Test run.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got through Midnight Sun and we finished it. We were like, all right, we did it. You know, our first topic on a bite of. That's awesome. And then like we sat there and we reflected. We were like, but did we actually like Midnight Sun?
We had fun.
Yeah.
But like, no, we didn't like
I think
it.
we had fun because it like felt so absurd.
Mm-hmm.
But in looking back at it, like when I look at the physical book, which is like huge and is literally taller than all the other Twilight novels, I'm like, wow, that is something.
700 pages. Ridiculous.
Dang.
Yeah.
You like doing a pod about Midnight Sun, not necessarily liked Midnight Sun. So those are
Exactly.
two
Yeah,
different
exactly.
things.
Right, exactly.
Thank you for that. I feel like
Yeah.
we needed that distinction made for ourselves there.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
That's awesome.
No
So-
time wasted.
So you say Midnight Sun was kind of the thing that spawned a bite of. But what made you want to, actually take the steps to make a podcast and record and then mix and then release it, and kind of what got that started?
I was on another podcast for about 3 years, and that was just strictly comic books. The only thing we talked about was comic books, and I loved it, and I love talking about comic books. That's probably like my first love. Behind Derek is like a bunch of my comic books back there, but there was just so much that I couldn't talk about, and that him and I were talking about a lot, and we were like, we have this Instagram account, and it's, it does fairly well. We have thousands and thousands of followers. It's like, why don't we get like more on the things that we're passionate about and talk about that instead of, just posting pictures and stuff like that. So, Midnight Sun came out when you're like, it'd be fun. It's just kind of talking about the things that we enjoy, because we enjoy so many different things all the time. I mean, just look at our seasons. We went from Midnight Sun to Blind Manor to Mandalorian to WandaVision. And it's like, I feel like a lot of people are that way. And to have people talk about that at the same time is always fun.
Yeah, and I think that we had always wanted to kind of create something together other than like that Instagram account that we had. And I think quarantine kind of forced us to do that, as
That's a big one.
crazy as it sounds. We kind of came to this decision. It was really interesting. We came to this decision at the beginning of quarantine. We made a list of things that we wanted to do. Some of it was like paint a wall yellow or get new molding for the bedroom. And like we wanted to really kind of remain creative and keep doing things and keep ourselves busy, because I think you can go insane in quarantine, which maybe I did. But I think the thing is that one of the things that came out of it is that we really leaned into our creativity. I was so lucky that Noah is, so talented when it comes to editing and marketing and things like that. So I was just like, let's be silly. But we really kind of had this moment of being like, we have time, we have things that we want to share. So let's do it now when we do have that time, and I think that's kind of, it was like two different things that came together to create the magic.
We just needed a pandemic, apparently.
Yeah, we just needed the world to shut down, not be able to go outside or anything like that to create a podcast.
Right.
So, do you still do the comic podcast, or?
No, so actually, we just ended it 2 weeks ago. I believe 2 weeks ago.
Ooh.
It was one of those things. We did it for so long, and it's not that we ran out of things to say. I mean, I know you guys read comic books, so you know that they're always going and there's always stuff to talk about. But it was one of those things of, are we putting 110% in this? 3 years is a long time, and it's like, everybody is kind of going in their own directions. It's like, hey, if we can't produce the best thing, let's just end it for us ending it and not for any other circumstance. So fortunately that one ended. But I got this one to keep me busy.
How did you, not to like start talking about the comic podcast that just ended, but like what got you into that podcast? Like how did...
I mean, it's kind of the same. I mean, I feel like a lot of people that start podcasts that aren't part of, big networks that they force people to do podcasts, you're passionate about it, and you want to find people to talk about with, and we really built a community around that. We built a community around people that read comic books, but it wasn't just, all the gatekeeping stuff, and it was very inclusive, and it was like, we want people to tell us our opinions. We did everything from different types of characters in comics to the history of LGBTQ characters in comics. And, we really like took comic books as a whole, but then focused in on some things. So, it was, I hadn't heard that before. And that was one of the things I felt like was missing from, this is just the weekly pull that I read and I didn't like it. It's like, okay,
Right.
well, what about this other stuff? So
Yeah.
I just felt like there was a void. So, that's why me and my two other co-hosts decided to make that.
And I assume that you guys enjoy listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite podcasts to listen to?
Go ahead. I feel like I've been talking.
No, you take it.
So I feel like my podcasts, what I listen to, are nothing like the podcasts that I have and that I like doing. I listen to, anything from true crime to news. It's very real stuff that I listen to because I feel like I'm always in this like escapism and fantasy stuff that, I'm like, oh, I forgot to listen to the news. Let me just listen to this like 12-minute thing.
Yeah.
But I would say probably one of my favorite ones is Wine and Crime. They're a pretty big one, but they're just so funny. It's like three girls with Minnesotan accents that talk about true crime. It's like Fargo, but
That
Yes!
sounds funny.
yeah,
I love
it's
Fargo.
amazing.
Yeah, I have to say that Wine and Crime is one of my favorites as well. It's like one of those things where it's like you're listening to this gruesome murder story, but they're making you laugh, and it's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
okay,
It's nothing better than hearing about that with a Minnesota accent.
right?
Right.
Yeah. It's one of those things that we can enjoy together if we're on a drive somewhere, or something like that. We'll pop on one of their episodes and just be able to laugh and forget,
Yeah.
that we're on the road for a while wherever we're going. Well, when we could go places. At least.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure. Yeah, I'll have to. You said Wine and Crime.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to give that a listen. My wife is really big into the true crime podcast. I think what's she listen to? Crime Junkies. Does that sound familiar? I
That
don't know.
one's I do like that one. I feel like not to get into this whole like discussion about podcasts in general. I feel like with these really big podcasts that if you jump into whatever episode they're doing now, it's hard to get into it because I feel like they have so many inside jokes or the way the show is. But I feel like that's why I liked Wine and Crime. I felt like it was really easy to get into it. But I mean, right off the bat, their first episode, it was about necrophilia, and it was so good. I was at work, and I was like, oh, let me see this podcast. And I'm sitting there laughing about necrophilia. And my boss is like, what are you laughing at? I was like, you really don't want to know.
Don't want to know.
Very not safe for work.
Yes.
Not at all.
That's hilarious. How long have you guys been doing a bite of?
Oh man, since we started the process of it, I would say like August.
Yeah, I
of
was gonna
last
say
year?
the summer of last year. Yeah,
Yeah.
so probably
It was October when we launched it. So we're kind of new-ish, I would say, but
it's been like 6 months, I would say, approximately.
It's like when we
Is that
started.
Yeah, we started around September.
September, August,
Something like
September.
that.
Yeah, something like that.
Actually, I think now that we're talking about when we started, I think how I found you guys was probably on some I think Noah on some Facebook group for podcasting or something. I think I stumbled on one of your links there, and I was like, oh, these guys are pretty cool.
those Facebook groups, got to use them.
You can't live with them, can't live without them. Sometimes I really hate them. There's nothing worse than trying to go get some advice or connect with some podcasters, but you have to scroll through like 7,000 listen to this episode. Here's this episode. Here's this live episode.
Like I have this master class, and you just have to pay me, and then you'll know the secrets of marketing. It's like I don't. What?
You have to go through Facebook. That's the problem. Maybe just favorite the page.
There you go.
Right.
Now you can skip your homepage and all the nonsense that probably comes up in that. Just skip.
It feels like old school AOL chat rooms. Does anybody remember that? Like, when you go in there and be like, I just want someone to talk to. And it's just like, bam, 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 just like nonsense and psychotic people.
Yeah.
Remember like ASL?
Oh, yeah.
My God. Back in the day. Getting to the AOL chat room, baby.
Oh yeah.
Nothing
That-
was good there. Nothing was sacred in the AOL chat room.
Yeah, I didn't really like in my early adolescent years have a computer and internet, so I would go to like my friend's house when we would have sleepovers or whatever, and I'd just be like in that chat room, just like
Right.
seeing what all the hot stuff was about. But yeah, so I guess I gotta ask you guys to pick a favorite. What's been your favorite season of A Bite of so far?
Whoa.
Well, I feel like we can't pick WandaVision because I feel like we both really enjoyed that one.
First of all, rudeness. But second of all, I think you're right. Yeah.
So WandaVision excluded. Only also because we have one more episode with WandaVision coming out, so we can't. Technically, we haven't finished it, so we can't say it. I'm
It's
just
not
making
over
these
till
rules.
it's over.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm going to say The Haunting of Bly Manor. I felt like that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something about the Haunting of Bly Manor it's interesting. Like with
Wait, is that yours?
I'm maybe.
Okay.
Don't back me into a corner yet. So the thing that was interesting with the Haunting of Bly Manor was like with WandaVision, we watch each episode probably about 3 or 4 times. And on our final time is when we're taking notes, and it's like right before we're going to record. With Bly Manor, Bly Manor was released full out. Like here's all 8 episodes right off the bat. So we would watch it, get up from watching it, and go directly to our recording and start recording it, to our microphone, start recording. So it was like very much like this like visceral reaction of everything we just watched and like the most horrible things and depressing things.
Yes.
And we just like go over to the microphone and like talk about it. But like what was like sort of freeing about that was that it was just literally like these are our base thoughts. Like this is exactly what we're feeling in the moment after watching it. So I think that was really fun.
Yeah, it wasn't
to do.
Yeah, we didn't get because I mean, you guys know whenever you're planning on talking about something or it's something that's already out and everybody's talking about it. It's not that you're like saying what everybody's saying, but what everybody is saying can kind of absorb into you. So sometimes you can stumble upon that. But I think that I did like that about Bly Manor because we would watch it and then get up and go talk about it.
Yeah, sometimes my notes for Bly Manor would just be like, just have the word like sad. Be like, that's all I have to say. Sad.
Just 10 lines of sad
Exactly.
in all caps. Yeah.
In that season 2, we took because it was based off of a book by Henry James, and it was a little novella. It's so tiny. We did 3 episodes on that, but because we split up into chapters, and reading such a weird gothic horror, like written in when was it like
1890 something
was so weird, but it's so much fun. But then it gave you that extra level, and that's kind of what we like to do with our show. Is if there's a book or anything like that, we like to give our listeners that before going into it. That way they're at the same level as us, and sometimes people might not read something or watch.
Yeah, I actually don't know how to read, so that would be very helpful for me.
We're here for you.
Now, Derek, you're a librarian, correct?
I sure am. Yes.
So I apologize. I know that last statement probably maybe infuriated you a little bit. On
No. The job of a librarian is to rise to that challenge, is to find the right book for that reader that doesn't like to read.
Right.
Yes.
Help them learn how to read. That is the sole purpose of my life.
Yeah, need the ones with the most pictures.
You
See,
got it.
like
Graphic novels all the way.
after elementary school, when they started having more words than pictures, that's kind of where I found
Yeah, that's when it got too crazy. What are these black squiggly lines?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I was gonna say I really do appreciate how you guys tied in the that book there with the Bly Manor series. That was really cool.
Yeah. It's definitely part of our research process, I think, that we want to kind of know the base knowledge of whatever it is we're going into. Yeah. For both of us, when it was like Midnight Sun, we had both read all 4 of the Twilight books, so we knew what to expect. Listen, those original ones, I will be like, I read them. People read them. The world read them. That's a beautiful thing. People were obsessed with books. I love that.
Right.
the content, I'm not gonna judge.
Yes.
But then after that, it was Bly Manor, and then even with the Mandalorian, of course, we had both watched the first season. We tried to get the lore of Star Wars and everything that's in it is so huge. So we did as much base research as we could, but reading those inspirational things helps us, I think, get context for the property that we're going to be taking a bite of that time around.
Yeah.
So I have a few things. But first, before we go any further, Nick, is that your new chair?
Yes, it is.
Do you
I want
have
to know more about this chair development.
Second question. Do you have pants on? Like,
I
can
do.
you stand up? Can I see
Yes.
this chair?
Yes,
please?
yes.
You told me it was a Cloud9 chair, so now I'm disappointed.
I wouldn't do that to you directly. Like, I wouldn't get your Cloud9, your very expensive Cloud9 chair. Like, that wouldn't be nice. I
appreciate that, but I was really excited to actually see it. But
right,
so
yeah.
you've disappointed me on multiple levels.
Good.
Here.
I'm glad. That's why I'm here.
Sorry
I'll
you guys
buy
had
it
to
for you
witness
someday.
Sorry you guys had to witness like mommy and daddy fighting here.
Okay, it
but-
gave us a look into your lives as co-hosts together, and I
Yes.
feel that vulnerability is necessary.
Well, yeah, because I've been looking to buy a new chair especially now that I sit here probably 12 to 16 hours a day already. So it's taken me a long time, but I go to the Secret Lab website and they have a Cloud9 version of this chair, and that's like Mike's favorite esports team. So I just very flatly told him, like, hey, I bought your Cloud9 chair, and he believed me. Obviously, I didn't think you believed me. I mean,
I did, and I don't know why.
I mean,
I don't know
it's a
either.
really cool color scheme. It's really cool, but I just went for the branding, if you will.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, little backstory: I have an obsession with Cloud9, which is an esports organization. Which I don't know if you guys know what esports is, but basically, it's professional competitive video games. And yeah, so I follow this one team. Like,
he doesn't read
religiously.
books.
No, I don't read books. I root for a bunch of 20-year-old professional gamers, like a football team. I have
all
like
our
a
passions. That's
hey,
fine.
that's right.
Yeah,
Someone's
it
got to
is.
do it. I have like a jersey, like a hoodie, mouse pads, like hats. Like I'm like sold out for Cloud9, and then Nick's like, I'm gonna get this super epic Cloud9 gaming chair, and I like cried on the outside, not on the inside, like on the outside.
Full on tears. Full on
Yes.
tears.
Yeah, basically my emotions were your Bly Manor notes.
Sad.
But I wanted to go back to what Noah said about how recording your Bly Manor episodes, how it was kind of fun because it was just almost your raw reaction. You guys sounds like you didn't really do much preparation after watching the episode. You just like sprint to the computer and you guys record.
Yeah.
That's something that we tried to do loosely with the Mandalorian. We had like a companion series, which I guess would be like our version of your podcast, where we had separate episodes after each Mandalorian episode came out, where we, recapped and analyzed and speculated about everything that happened. And one thing that I tried to do when we were doing that was not look online at all at like anyone else's like coverage on any episode or their theories or anything, because like you're saying, like you don't want to just regurgitate other people's thoughts or opinions, or even if you're not like intending to do that, if you're reading other people, like it's just gonna sink in and like subconsciously like it's gonna come out. So I bet that was probably super fun to just watch an episode and then run to the computer and record it real fast before you really take in anything else involving that content. So
it was funny because there were people knew as we were doing that season, because it all came out. It was on Netflix, so a lot of our listeners either had already watched the whole thing and we didn't. We purposely like weren't on social media where we're like, we cannot know anything because it's going to ruin it. And it was funny to see, because we would go there and record, and people that knew that we were watching it and recording, they were like, you guys are hot, you guys are cold with our theories. So it was really funny to be like, oh wait, which one?
Yeah. And
That's funny.
And the thing was is that like people would sort of like innocently sort of give us spoilers, and people would be like, oh my god, episode 5, and you'd be like, we'd only be on episode 3, like what happens in episode 5?
Right.
You know, but we were trying to pace ourselves and get
Right.
through it so we can have like we could watch it and then go and record it. So it was fun in the sense of like people saying things and us not really knowing what they were talking about, but then figuring it out later on.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. I bet that sounds super fun. What were you guys fans of Star Wars prior to Mandalorian, or?
I think I was more of a fan than he was. Like, I would say like more of the extended stuff as well. Like, I consumed as much as I could, and then like you had movie knowledge and everything.
Yeah,
like that.
I have an older brother that basically forced me as a child when he was babysitting me to watch Star Wars over and over again. So I think unfortunately that had like an adverse reaction to me. But as I got older and got to watch them on my own free will, that was really exciting. And they're awesome stories. But I really that's the truth. I know them at the base level of the movies. I unfortunately never went into any of the extended lore or any of the animated series, which are supposed to be incredible. You know, and especially meeting Ahsoka this time around, I wish I would have been able to see her in her original series. But I can always go back and watch that. But yeah, I mean, and then I watched The Mandalorian and then got swept away in, you know, Baby Yoda mania. So.
Yes, much like everyone else. I
Yeah.
totally feel it. That was a fun series for us to do. Similarly to you, I like avoided Star Wars at all costs. Like I guess it was kind of almost a hipster tendency of where like I thought, you know, everyone thinks Star Wars is so cool. Like I'm not gonna watch that. No. And then like I kept doing that for years and years and years, and then we got to like The Mandalorian, and I was just like, at this point, there's too much. Like I can't. I like literally can't do it now. But doing our series with Nick, who's like a Star Wars savant, he's like Rain Man of Star Wars knowledge over there.
I see your Star Wars,
yeah. Right? I see wars behind
there.
it.
I believe there should be a star above that.
Yeah. I need to adjust the camera.
Is that actually on your stool? Is that a ship?
Yeah, it's my
that what it
birthday
is?
present to me.
My birthday present to me.
Derek's like, happy birthday.
Yes. But he like doing that series like really made me dive into Star Wars head first. And if you haven't seen the animated stuff, you really should knock that out. It's so good.
I definitely have to backtrack, especially with all the new Star Wars series that are coming out. And what's so beautiful, I think, about the whole Star Wars universe going forward is that they're connecting everything. You know, everything's kind of finding a way to come together. So I feel like I'm going to be doing myself a disservice if I kind of go forward with it, but not take a look back.
That was one of the things that I think was to our benefit, though, with doing that season, because I know more than he does, but he kind of acted in a weird proxy as some of our listeners that didn't know much.
That's exactly what happened.
That's a great technique. That's a great technique. Because Mike was like, I don't really know anything about Star Wars. I'm like, no, this is gonna be perfect. Like,
Right.
I probably
you know
asked-
nothing. I know way too much, and you're gonna level me out, and then I'm gonna elevate you a little bit, and it worked out really well.
I probably asked the dumbest questions.
They were
entire
great at the
series.
beginning. They were good. They were good.
But that's a good point, though, because I feel like if everybody is so knowledgeable about the thing, then you kind of skirt over the things that you could talk about, or maybe the listener or whoever's, you know, listening or watching doesn't know about, because he would ask questions like, wait, what is that? And I'm like, oh wait, yeah, you don't know what that would be because you didn't watch the seasons of the
I would feel so excited like I figured something out. I'd be like, but this thing, and he'd be like, no, that's that's it.
that came out like 8 years ago. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
just watching New Hope.
Yeah, talking Star Wars with like other Star Wars nerds, it's fun, but you definitely can be self-aware of the rabbit holes you go down that are completely unnecessary. And I knew that wouldn't happen with Mike, and he would actually kind of, bring to light to the things that maybe are more important to talk about, or the things that I might glaze over and be like, oh, I guess that's a good thing to explain because that's just like baked into the back of my brain.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
So I have one more question for you guys for this interview portion of the show.
Wait, so it was Bly Manor Derek's favorite?
Oh yeah, I guess we kind of went off the trail there.
See, but I don't know. I have such a sweet spot for some reason for Midnight Sun. I think it was because it was our first
there
one.
It is.
And it was a book.
Right.
So librarian.
Double whammy.
Yeah, double whammy. I don't know. I'm very big into the original sort of thing. I don't know. I was very big into Real World and Road Rules back in the day. Paramount Plus is releasing this reunion of the first season of the Real World. I'm very excited about it. But you know what I mean? It's nostalgic. It takes me back. So I think that's part of it as well.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. So Blind Manor and Midnight Sun. Okay. So this next question is probably what everyone wants to know. Well, I guess everyone who's fans of A Bite Of probably wants to know. And I don't know if you're going to be able to, spill the beans, but I was hoping that Showboys might be able to get an exclusive.
I had a feeling you would ask.
I like how Mike took it down a notch. He was like, everyone. Actually, no, wait. No. People who listen to me.
I meant no slight in that comment at all.
No, it was hilarious.
I was like, everyone. Well, I mean, everyone doesn't know
people
about
who know you.
Yeah.
We're very aware of our generalizations, and we try to walk them back as often as we can. Everyone.
Yeah. What's the next season of A Bite Of?
So funny you should ask that.
Drama. First of all.
Only so you had talked or mentioned something on Discord not too long ago, and I tried to hide it and be like, no, it's not going to be this thing that you're mentioning. We're doing something else. So that's all I'm going to say on that. So the thing that you mentioned is the thing that we're doing.
So what you're saying is go to Showboys Discord and dig up the clue there.
Well, yes. Actually, I believe you'll have to go to A Bite Of's Discord. But since we're on the Discord topic, you should just join both.
There you go.
That's probably the best way to stay in touch and on top of things related to Showboys. I know you guys have a pretty active Discord community. It's fun to be a part of. So if you're not a part of either of these Discord servers, please join both. Join A Bite Of's. They have so much fun over there. Lots of great conversation and spicy memes. So good.
A good meme.
Yes, that's very interesting. So I believe we will be covering the same topic here in the near future.
I think so.
Which is exciting.
I will say that the big property that we're in right now, the next season isn't going to be in it. So we're not going to be in the big M next season.
I'm barely hanging on to this.
I got lost.
No, I follow you. That's good. You don't want to triple dip, I guess, into the same IP.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, you're right. He got it.
Yeah.
So I keep him around.
The only reason why I'm being coy about it is because there's a bunch of people that keep asking us, and I was like, we'll tell you on our wrap-up episode, because so many people are asking. I'm like, wait.
Yes, no, we're stealing all those tasty listens. But no, that's exciting. Thanks for the clues. And if you need to figure it out, if you can't wait for the next A Bite Of episode, go check out their Discord and dig it up. Do some detective work. Yeah, Nick, do you have any other questions for these guys before we move on to the next little segment?
I think I'm just super glad that I knew you're a librarian before this episode, because that was my favorite part of the last WandaVision episode was the little bit there about Vision in the library versus Vision. One, because I really like that scene, and let's just say that's what I use libraries for. I just go in there and have a philosophical debates with myself. So I don't actually read books, but
immediately thought that you went in there and had like a crazy WWE like wrestling match with laser eyes and
in my brain,
phasing bodies and
in my mind.
I was like, wow, I thought libraries were used for something
He just
so
goes
much
in there
different.
and knocks all the books off the shelves. He doesn't care.
Oh man. Well, I guess that's a great segue. Let's get into WandaVision here. Yeah, so it just ended, and I was wondering if you guys like what maybe some theories that you guys were hoping like panned out that didn't pan out, or maybe some theories that you guys maybe haven't really talked about on your show that actually came to fruition. Maybe just some final thoughts from Noah and Derek. Even though literally you're going to be doing this for your next episode.
Oh no, I mean it's fine. We wanted like listeners to send in questions or like anywhere from like what WandaVision character would win the Great British Break Off. So like it's like we kind of just making the last one fun. I mean, I think everybody kind of fell into the Mephisto trap and the multiverse thing, and because they led you that way purposefully, and I think it was actually pretty well done if you kind of take a step back and was like, oh, they meant it to be that way, so then I can appreciate it. I don't know. I had high hopes for like Senor Scratchy, and like I don't know if you heard me on my podcast being like the Salem Seven, and Nicholas Scratch is her son, and then they have grandkids. I was like this whole big thing, and I was like, yeah, I'm totally completely far off from that, but I was really hoping for like more witches.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because as we were watching it and as we were going through these episodes, we were like, making these big things that it's going to keep expanding and it's going to attach this to this and it's going to be this and this other thing. They're going to bring in this big bad and then he's going to be in this movie. But it really kind of ended up being this almost self-contained story. I mean, I know we had sort of a cliffhanger there at the end, but I also think that's part of the beauty of WandaVision in a sense, is that it was this one story of this one chapter of Wanda's life. And that's all it needed to be. I think it entertained us and it kept us hooked. And it didn't have to go beyond those borders. I think that, we thought that who was Pietro, who was fake Pietro and what that meant. And the fact that, Peter from X-Men was in there. And
I think it was good though. Like, I mean, I know you guys obviously like Marvel and you guys read comic books and stuff like that. But I mean, as far as it just being so different from everything else, of course it's set up for the next whatever they're doing in the Marvel universe. But for it to be, kind of in a sense, really self-contained and grounded in what it was. And they kind of did that bait and switch thing where like everybody knows that we try to set up for the next thing, but this isn't that. So like, I'm curious on what you guys also think of that, but like, I kind of liked it, to be honest. Like, I thought it was refreshing to have something so different, even though some things were disappointing.
Yeah. I'm really curious to get Nick's opinions. Because he's not like, am I wrong in saying you're not like the biggest MCU guy, Nick?
Correct. And I was thinking about this earlier when you guys were talking about like Mandalorian, and like Derek's kind of experience with Star Wars. My foundation is the movies, right? All 20 million of them, 23. And that's just kind of where I stick, and they're just like fun movies that I like to watch because they are what they are. But much like The Mandalorian is for a lot of people, I find myself maybe WandaVision and this new string of what we assume to be standalone one season series, right, that are going to be coming out here is going to be my kind of, phase 4 is going to be my kind of deeper delve into the MCU. With all the backtracking I'll be able to do with what's already come out, which is fine. Yeah. I want to do that. But I really liked it. And obviously I would be happy if it was 4 seasons of just sitcom tropes just redone. And that was the
superhero
big thing.
Version of Community.
Yeah,
There
and,
you go.
Please.
and I'm
Why
pretty
wasn't
sure
that one of them?
Yeah, right.
Dude, for real.
Oh, yeah, that would have been all kinds of circles.
I mean, hey, you got the Russo bros, we're on Community, or,
Exactly.
part of Community. They're part of the MCU. I mean, it just makes sense. They should have. Yes.
and that's what stopped my rewatch or my watch of it was they broke the wall there and we're like, this is what's kind of really going on. I'm like, crap, we're gonna get into like some more MCU usual business. So that's where I like paused and then was able to catch up on the last 6 episodes or so all at once, which is really fun. But no, I really enjoyed it, and I plan on it's going to spark my interest into the rest of the Marvel universe right now. And like you guys kind of alluded to, more witches. I really found that piece of this story the most intriguing, and I really like Doctor Strange, so the tie-ins there, like I feel like it's in my pocket of the MCU, like right in there, so I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I have to admit that like one of my loves in life is a good sitcom. So like I like my favorite shows as a kid, like I loved SNL, I loved Friends, I loved Seinfeld, I ended up watching 30 Rock and Parks and Rec, and so humor is like my go-to thing. So it kind of like eased me into this process of being like, oh, they're making nods at all these great sitcoms of the past, and I think they did a sort of good job like integrating the outside world into it. And then when they finally broke from that kind of sitcom thing, but I love the Brady Bunch as a kid, so that really drew me into WandaVision, and then I stayed for the rest of the story for sure.
The cool thing about that, now that you say that, like how they eat, it was sitcom oriented, and then they kind of got away from that. But as the episodes go on, it's kind of like you were watching Wanda try to hold that together, as you're trying, she's trying to hold that trope together, and it's falling apart on her. Just as we the viewers are also in that kind of position where like, is it still there? Is it gone? Are we just full MCU, kind of thing? Or are we still going to try and hold that together? And I think that was fun, the way they kind of made that develop through the show.
I will say the thing I appreciated so much about this show is the departure from the normal like MCU formula for their movies. This one was so dark. Like lots of pretty crazy things for MCU standards, at least. And just how outside of the box it was with the sitcom trope and like the presentation of literally parodying. Wow, that's so
parodizing.
There you go.
Oh, that's a good
Thank you.
I was going to say parodying. So Paradising
words are
like,
hard. That's
are
why
words.
I can't read. But how they just did that of sitcoms in the superhero genre, and it was so different from anything we've seen MCU wise, and just like the depth and like how it was basically 9 episodes on how to deal with grief. Like I don't know, I guess what I'm saying is all of the Marvel stuff up to Infinity War was pretty cut and clean, and like this is the typical story arc that you're going to see in a Marvel movie, and they're like peppy and happy, and the hero always wins and nothing bad ever happens type deal. But to see the things that started in Infinity War and then like happened in Endgame, and then you see how Wanda is dealing with all of that stuff throughout this series, and like how she held an entire town captive as meat puppets, and like they're crying on the inside and like wanting to die instead of being controlled by Wanda. Like that is some dark stuff for Marvel. And like Vision and her 2 sons like just being figments of the creation in the Hex, and like,
hey, we don't know that fully yet. Don't say
it. We're just going by what we've seen so far.
Hold out hope.
Excuse me. But yeah, it's just such a departure from the typical MCU stuff. And as I was saying in your Discord at one time, like this was my least anticipated thing for Marvel. Like I thought it was not going to do well, and
Right.
I was not excited to watch this at all. But then after the first episode, I was like, this is amazing. Like so amazing because it's so off the wall. And like I'd heard, seen rumblings out there on the internet that like the first few episodes, a lot of people weren't quite fans of, but like I love the off the wall, like super weird, like give me more of that. But
you gotta like appreciate the actors and even just the whole team over there for really leaning into it. Because like I feel like the first 3 episodes, there's only like really one moment in the first episode where it breaks a little bit when Mrs. Hart is saying stop it. Then you're like, whoa, I forgot that this was happening. And then it like keeps happening. And you're like, oh, okay, this is interesting. I want to see how this plays out. But that is true. I feel like it's weird to say, but it's like watch the get to the 4th episode and then you'll understand it. But then when you look at it, it's like they're only like 15 minutes long, so you could sit there and get through it like really quickly.
I also think part of what made it so widely loved is that, like you were saying, is that it's not your standard sort of MCU property, right? It's not the hero, the baddie, defeating the baddie, moving on to the next thing. It's this encapsulated story that involves, humor and love and action and deceit. So it has so many levels that it's hitting that so many different people can get into it. So if you're into sitcoms like I was, okay, there's a sitcom aspect to it. If you're into the MCU, well, there are my heroes. There's Vision. He might be wearing a suit, but he still has a green and red face. But there's also that story there that almost makes it a little soapy in the sense that she's controlling these people and they're in this dark town and what's really going on, and there's the mystery of it. So I just think it hits so many different genres that different types of people could enjoy it. And
that's what they call genre bending.
Genre bending. That's the last airbender is actually the last genre.
Nice. Yep.
I knew.
That's the final element. It's genre. Got it.
It's perfect.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
And I mean, no, go ahead, Mike. You got some.
I was just gonna say, actually, you go first because this might spin off into something else. So.
Okay. I definitely, I'm gonna go back to this. So I think I see myself becoming more of an MCU fanboy here into Phase 4 because, a lot of the things that I know Mike and I would complain about the MCU is, everything was very kind of like happy, standard palette, up to Infinity War and Endgame. And, the longer I think things go on, the greater the MCU is going to appear to be for what it is, because they are, the big thing with those 2 movies at the time was, they're going to correct it. The dusting's going to undo itself. There's no repercussions to what happened. But as we see in WandaVision, they are very directly addressing the repercussions of the dusting because these people came back. How does the entire universe deal with that kind of crap? Like they disappeared for 3 years and they just come back. They showed that happen in the hospital. Like that's madness. Like that's dark in itself. On like the, people that are here have to deal with it and had to deal with it. That's why he made that line. Like you guys really are just missing for, however many years. And we had to deal with that. And you guys just show up one day and reinsert yourselves.
The only good line that Hayward.
Yeah, right.
I hate him.
How dare you exist again? How dare you?
Yeah, right.
Yes.
So I just
welcome back.
And that's where it's going to get darker, and they are getting a little darker and a little bit more real. And that was the source of all of Wanda's post, Endgame pain was this whole series dealing with Vision being gone.
Yeah. Well,
so
Wanda got like so screwed. Like she watched, or she had to kill Vision.
Yeah.
And then he comes back and then she has to watch him get his stone ripped straight out of his head in front of her. So like he didn't even get snapped, like he's dead. And then in WandaVision, she had to watch him be completely deconstructed, and then she and then she brings him back to life, and then the hex goes away and she has to watch him die again. It's
Not
just
to mention her brother died, and
yes.
then Tony and Steve were like, "We hate each other, so you have to pick a side, Wanda." And she's like, "My
Yeah.
brother just died. Like, what?
Yeah,
I'm dealing
no,
with
she's
some things,
had
guys.
no break, no
But
break at all.
I think that's a good. I think one of the detriments to the MCU was that you had really the three main characters, but I really just want to say Steve and Tony
Hmm.
really were the characters of the MCU. So you got to know them a little bit. I feel like Thor had some stumblings, but he might be going the right direction. But they never gave you time to know the characters or really care about them
Hmm.
like you did with Cap and Iron Man. So I think doing these shows is a good thing because you get to sit with them week by week. You get to know
Yeah,
more about them. You get to root for them. You get to know them and everything. So I think that was if they planned. I don't know if they planned this the entire time for you to finally get Wanda's story and finally for her to become the Scarlet Witch, but like that whole trajectory of her getting her name is probably the best one in
Yeah.
all of
yeah,
like
that was
comic
really
book
cool.
everything because it was such an anticipation and building up for it and
I didn't even realize it was something they were building up to because I was just aware that she was it
Right.
the whole time,
Right.
and then all of a sudden they were like, "Here's some backstory." I'm like, "Oh, she's a witch. That's cool." And then they were like, "Wow, she just kind of gave her the name, like that's her
Right.
name, that's what she is." And like the fact that it hadn't been established like verbatim yet, it took this long to do that, I thought was super intriguing.
And Catherine Hahn of all people to
Oh
deliver
yeah,
like the moniker for her. I was
she
like, yes,
Yeah.
it's so good.
it was so good. So I had two things to say. Let's see if I can remember. First, so in preparation of the new companion series that we have coming out, shameless plug, first episode Sunday, we're doing a companion series for the Falcon and Winter Soldier. So hey, tune in Sunday. We're gonna have our like pre-show where we hype up and catch up with Sam and Bucky, yada yada yada. In preparation for that, my wife and I have watched Infinity War, and we made it halfway through Endgame last night again. But she's super pregnant, so she was like falling asleep on the couch, and I was like, "All right, we have to stop it. We'll do it again tomorrow."
They come back, I get it.
Yeah,
exactly. Man, she's a trooper, like watching all these Marvel movies with me multiple times. Bless her heart. But about the repercussion thing, and like you were saying, Nick, about the people coming back from being dusted, you kind of see a little bit in Endgame where Scott Ant-Man, goes to his house and sees his daughter like 5 years older, and she's like grown up and like, pretty much a young adult now, and like he missed 5 years of his daughter's childhood, and like, yeah, he didn't get dusted, and his maybe I don't remember if his daughter did get no, she didn't get dusted because she grew.
She was there.
Yeah. So, but just like him being trapped because of the events of the snap and like missing out on those 5 years, like, yeah, they're both still alive, but like he missed out on 5 years of his daughter growing up, and like that hurts. Like that's a big cost. So one of my initial complaints with Infinity War and Endgame was like, oh, they're just going to bring all these people back, and it's not really going to matter. Like the end of Infinity War was so powerful because of the cost. And then I was just like, but it doesn't matter because in Endgame, they're just going to bring him back. Like,
right.
But the cool thing about like WandaVision and hopefully Falcon and Winter Soldier and Loki and some of these Phase 4 movies as we start Phase 4, we'll get to see those consequences play out and like how it's affecting everyone. And like you even saw it a little bit in Homecoming, right? With the people returning in that movie right after Endgame. So that was one thing I wanted to say. So if anyone has a retort, go ahead and get it in now before I branch off onto something else.
Yeah, I want to just kind of branch off from that and saying that I think that we got to also see that aspect of what it means to come back with Monica, because she came back where she was last in her life. Her mother was alive.
Oh yeah.
And
that sucks.
And here she is this woman that she idolized and loved so dearly was gone, and she didn't even realize that. Here she is sitting there, she's healing from a surgery that will make her better, but when she
Yeah.
returns, she's gone. So we see that within WandaVision, there were two sort of snap stories, if you will. And also, I believe that I would have been snapped for sure.
Oh man, that scene of Peter, dusting in Tony's arms. I don't feel so good.
Yeah, it's
Brutal.
probably the worst one. But I mean, I think everybody is welcoming this like closure in a way. I mean, so much time afterwards, but this closure or getting answers, and I feel like we don't usually get that really in these types of properties, or a lot of times the movie just ends and that's it.
Yeah.
But thankfully with the MCU and Marvel and what Disney's doing is they're like, wait, we have 5 years to cover with like certain properties, like we can do that and then do this on this other timeline. So I think things are about to get crazy.
And how odd that, they wrap up that whole phase with, Endgame and Infinity War, and they leave all these kind of open loops out there. And then the pandemic hits, everything gets pushed, right? So we're all sitting here just like further in limbo.
Yeah.
And, I think that was a healthy exercise for the MCU to have this huge breath in between where everyone's just like, so what's happening?
It's crazy to think that last year we had no Marvel content when since like 2008 we've had multiple a year, and then it was like, wait, why does this year, not only because of everything that's happening, feel so weird? Oh, that's right, because nothing is coming out. Not even Marvel.
That thing we've been used to for 10 straight years stopped happening.
Right.
But that kind of brings up another question is like, do you think WandaVision would have been so successful if there wasn't that dry period of Marvel content? Like, with this being the first thing that we've had since everything shut down, like, of course everyone is hungry for Marvel and like wants that action back. But like, if we had Black Widow first, or whatever else was intended to come before WandaVision, would everyone have latched on to it as much as they did?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm just trying to think of the timeline that was before everything got switched around. I would say, I think everything Marvel is always going to do well. Everybody's going to watch it. Everybody's going to consume it at one point or another. So, but I feel like it was in its benefit in a way, even though the last episode had some hiccups and there was supposed to be a 10th episode, and, they had to do stuff during COVID as well. Who knows what would have turned out. But I think with how they're doing things, I think is smart. I feel like having Falcon and Winter Soldier afterwards is perfect, because WandaVision is weird. It's completely new and different. I feel like, and this is just me speculating, I feel like Falcon and Winter Soldier is something we've seen before, obviously with the new story, but it's Marvel. Right. So I feel like having this new and exciting thing is going to make people even watch Falcon and Winter Soldier more, I'm just really sad that I have to wait for Doctor Strange 2. How dare he only have one movie, and now I have to wait over a year.
I completely agree with that.
Yeah, I think Falcon and Winter Soldier will be a nice palate cleanse between WandaVision and then Loki, because Loki's going to be just as weird.
I mean, let's hope. Yeah. Let's hope, Like, who knows at this point what they're going to do? Like, it could be, what if it's crazier than WandaVision? Then, like, great. Phase 4 is just off the walls. Like,
So the other thing that I wanted to say was, I guess it kind of leads into where we left here with Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, like, kind of in a gray area. Like, she's still a hero and someone that we all, I guess, would still recognize as a hero, but she did some stuff there in the gray middle ground, and kind of gave off like a almost villainous vibe there at the end. So
well, I think that's what's so funny though, is that like when you were talking before about like the meat puppets and taking Westview hostage, I was thinking, but we're fine with it.
Yeah.
No, she needs this. She needs to feel better. Keep them prisoner. It's fine.
Okay, I will only say that she didn't know she was doing that, and when she did know she was doing it, she thought she was like they were okay. So, and then to come to find out they're not okay, and like it's just really bad, and she almost choked him out. But so
almost
is a key word, guys.
It wasn't the whole thing.
And it was only like one town in New Jersey. Like, come on.
Yeah,
Westview.
exactly.
I mean, hey,
How dare you?
Thanos was just trying to save the galaxy. I mean, he only took out 50% of it. I mean,
Good
come
point.
on.
Good point. Why are we rooting for Scarlet Witch, not for Thanos?
We kind of touched on this on our last episode. We talked about storytelling and video games and stuff, and the topic came up from The Last of Us. I don't know if you guys are big gamers or if you've played The Last of Us or not, but
That's
we
one
kind
of
of
my favorite games.
Oh yeah, so great. we talked about how Joel is kind of a scumbag. Like at the end of The Last of Us, he kind of dooms humanity by not letting them get the cure, right? I mean, we're all on his side, and I there's no way that I would have let doctors, possibly kill my who I see as my daughter, right?
Yeah.
But
so
that's the philosophy of it, right? So it's like in WandaVision we had the boat of Theseus or
the ship of Theseus.
You got it. You got it.
Give me a break. But that's the trolley problem, right? That's the philosophical trolley problem. And the thing is that are you willing to switch the cart to save the one life, or you save everyone on board but you kill a whole bunch of people, or whatever it is? It's what is the philosophy behind it? Do you save one person even though it would say like you save one person but it kills many people, or you kill one person, you know what I mean?
You had it reversed,
but yeah. You kill one person to save everyone, or you save one person to kill many.
There you go.
So what is the choice that you make?
You kept saying save one person, kill
I just want to save everyone and
Derek's
kill everyone.
Maybe a secret mass murderer. I don't know.
Great.
Surprise.
All things being revealed tonight. But that's such a good, I don't know, key to good storytelling, right? When you you have to sit on that middle ground with how you feel about characters. Like you can justify either side of the coin. And I think that's something that the MCU has been doing well in their last few movies. Like you look at Black Panther and you can totally understand and justify the way that Killmonger feels, and that's why he was such a great villain in that movie. Is like you're like I get it. Like I kind of would feel the same way. Maybe not murder as many people, but I get it. I get it. And then even with Thanos, like obviously I'm not trying to wipe out 50% of the universe, but like if you listen to what he's saying, like he kind of has a point. Maybe we can figure out a better way to do that.
I mean, right. He could have just made more resources.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, we definitely
more wheat.
We definitely would have had a conversation with him and been like, hey, listen, you got all those stones, you can do the opposite of what you're trying to do with them. Right. You can do whatever you want with them. But like you can kind of understand where he's coming from. And like even in The Last of Us with Joel, like I told, like when I got to that part in the game, like I didn't realize that you could have just like grabbed her and ran out of the room. Like I murdered the doctors, like as the player, like I shot them both. Like that tells you what kind of person I am. Obviously a terrible person, but like I don't know. You just you feel like some of those things, actions, whatever, thoughts can be justifiable because some small portion of it kind of makes a little bit of sense. So with Wanda, like we all know that her intentions weren't like bad. She was just dealing with some stuff and it just kind of happened that way. But like, do you see her being like now set up as a villain? Like, is she in that weird, like Punisher, like anti-hero, like realm where she can be like seen and viewed as either or in certain movies or shows, or what do you guys think?
I mean, I don't. I mean, I don't think she'll be like the Punisher. If she does, that'd be bananas.
I should clarify. I don't mean like literally like the Punisher, but I mean like
she just
like,
has guns now.
yeah. She's just like spraying everyone with bullets. Those wiggly woos are flying out of her hand.
Wiggly woos.
Yes, that's probably
Yeah, I
my
don't-
favorite line from the entire series. I gotta say, the red wiggly woos.
I don't. I mean, I think she might be a villain for somebody, but I don't think she'll be a villain. Like, let's just say only because the last thing we saw with her is she heard Billy and Tommy.
Mhm.
As a mother and what she went through, everything, regardless if you're like, those aren't her kids, those are her kids, she believes that they're her kids. So she will have that whole, story arc of trying to get them back, whatever that may mean. And if Doctor Strange gets in her way, I wouldn't say that she's a villain, but it's like the antagonist to him,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
If
I
anything,
think-
go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things that I always think about is sort of the source material and thinking about the comics and who Scarlet Witch was in the comics, how she's sort of seen as like this like all powerful, witch who with the snap of her fingers can change the world, so
Mhm.
I don't know if she's seen as a villain in those comics, but she's definitely someone who has power who can do a lot of damage very easily.
Yeah. I mean, but
And
I think that's the difference between antagonist and villain. Like, she's
Mhm.
not purposefully doing these things to kill people.
Right.
She just happens to be the antagonist for all of the Marvel heroes. So, but I think there's a balance there, and I think that there should be a distinction. But I don't think she's a villain. I don't think they would make her, because her whole story of grief and her finally coming out of it, and then to make her a villain, I like personally that doesn't sit well with me, because it's like, well, what was all that
Right,
for?
yeah.
Like,
There would be no
You know,
chill for poor
right.
Wanda.
right, exactly. Like, give her a break. Come on. Like,
I mean, I wouldn't see them doing it. It's they already set the precedent with Civil War, right? You have the two, as you said, like main characters of the MCU were, which one of them were the bad guy? Like one of them
Right.
technically, I guess, has to be the bad guy in that story, but neither of them were.
mhm.
So if it's like a Doctor Strange versus her, there might be a fight there. There will be some tension drawn out, and whose fault it is doesn't really matter. It's just the fact that people deal with stuff and go through
Right.
crap, and I think that's what they're really trying to convey. And I think that's why what's his face is just like for sure the most hated guy in WandaVision, because she's doing terrible things, but his reaction to like what she's doing and his opinion on who and how bad she is, I mean, that's where he falls into the wrong in that, and he's the little villain of that story.
There's like a difference between like intentionally being a jackass and unintentionally making a bunch of meat puppets.
Because even
It's hard finding that balance though in life.
It is. I gotta
It
tell
really
you,
is.
man, you never know when that meat puppet might pop up. It's just
So good.
no, those are all great points, and yeah, I think that they took a character that was so like tertiary to the story kind of for so long, and like over 9 episodes developed her so much that we can have conversations like this where you're like, well,
Right.
what's gonna happen? There's like she is now probably one of the deepest characters that they have, I might argue.
Right.
But yeah, the Mephisto thing, I gotta say, I was again channeling my inner Derek with the big sads when that come through.
I mean, I think it's one of those things where like the source material or people that know it, and like, gatekeeping is this whole other thing, but you would think that they did it to set up Mephisto, because it's like, oh, the twins, the story started with Mephisto, demons, Senor Scratchy, has to be. but then they did this whole thing. Yeah, I'm very curious now to see who the main villain of this phase is, even if there isn't a
Yeah.
main villain.
Hmm.
Would be interesting.
Grief is the villain.
I'm not ready. For
Everyone's
that.
grief.
That was beautiful.
I'm telling you, every once in a while he's got a gem.
Oh my god, that was the realest thing that's been.
I
said
just
all evening.
unraveled the entire phase 4 like
Yeah.
premise.
All right, you guys don't need to watch any more movies.
All right,
Right,
Got us
we're
covered.
Just
done.
whenever somebody starts, just lean in and go, guys, grief is the villain, and everybody's like, you're right, you're right.
I don't need that like during the tail end of COVID.
True. Yes.
Too real.
That might not
Too
be
real.
good for us. I will say another thing that I kind of was sad about was shoot, what can I think of? Oh, the multiverse not really like openly being acknowledged yet, or like broken open, or like really hinted at, outside of like literally just being pranked. Like we got pranked so hard. The prank
What?
so
So
hard.
I like the multiverse, but I'm always curious, like, why do we need one? Only in that because I feel like in comics, the multiverse is really an excuse to have stories that are outside of the main storyline, or to bring back characters that they killed, but they have to have an excuse to bring them back. So, like, I'm always like, I guess if the multiverse is there,
Yeah.
or if it's to bring in the X-Men, that's fine. But, like, I feel like there's so many avenues they could go that I don't know. I feel like the multiverse might confuse people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
like,
it 100% will.
Open it up too big, it's
I
too
think-
big.
I think if the multiverse does exist, and however they did lightly acknowledge it in WandaVision, maybe that's just where it should stay as. It should not ever become so literal as like, all right, we're literally going into some Doctor Strange too.
I
Like,
mean, like, literally the movie is
yeah.
Multiverse of Madness.
But even if they approach it from a less literal sense and more of a, there's these like inklings where weird stuff drips in, just like what her brother, right, recast. They kind of went a little like fourth wall there, and Agatha recast him as a different person. That's kind of how they explained it. Yeah, I mean, I like it in that sense, but yeah, it's definitely a tricky road to go down.
I think for us, at least when we were recording and going through the episodes, the multiverse was exactly that. We were going to explain Pietro with the multiverse. That was the point of it, and instead it ended up being like the Ralph Boner Chronicles or whatever. But
Yes.
I think that's what we were like leaning on. We're like, that's how and why they did this. This is how it's all happening. And then it didn't end up being that at all.
But
Right.
it was, I mean, if they weren't going to do that, and if they eventually do, it's so smart though. It made so many people talk about it. The fact that it was like,
Yeah.
it was weekly. It gave people weeks and weeks and weeks to talk about this and do fan theories, and then to just be kind of like, oh, okay, it wasn't it, but it was just so much fun. The ride was so much fun that even though we didn't get what we wanted or hoped for, it was like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Agatha all along was on the Billboard charts. That's the power
Worth
of
it.
WandaVision.
Man, but I would say like I just want it so bad because they've been teasing it for quite a while if you think about it. I mean, like you got the little bit in Endgame where the Sorcerer Supreme is explaining the split of realities, like when they're in their time heist. Conveniently, that's where we left off last night, so that's why that's fresh here in the head. So you had her kind of like hinting at it there, and then in Homecoming, the conversation with Mysterio and Spider-Man and Nick Fury about like he wasn't from this Earth, he was from Earth, whatever, I forget what number it was, and that ended up being just like Jake Gyllenhaal being Jake Gyllenhaal. But like, and then you get to WandaVision, and then you see, Fox's Quicksilver pop up as Quicksilver in the MCU, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's finally happening, yes. And then they just pulled the rug right out from under us. A bunch of jerks. But to answer your question, I think like you said, it's just gonna. it's going to be the crutch for introducing the X-Men, because we've gone a decade without like any real hints of mutants like existing, which of course they don't need to use the multiverse as like an excuse of mutants being, you know, a thing now, but like I just see as like they've kind of been hinting and teasing at it. That could be, you know, their explanation of the origins of the mutants and the X-Men and being able to finally bring those characters in.
My favorite theory with bringing the X-Men in, I mean, there's hundreds of them. My favorite one, and I thought would have been, I guess, the smoothest, or I was like, oh yeah, I could see that happening, is when Banner, or when Hulk snapped everybody back, that he changed them a little bit. So when everybody came back, they kind of, you know, developed powers or whatever, so that way, because of Thanos, they could protect themselves. So I thought that, but I was like, oh, if they did that, I could see that happening. I don't see it happening in Hawkeye, you know, like, so like whenever they do eventually introduce it. So it's going to be interesting when they do. Because there's rumors that Kevin Feige has been talking about some stuff, so I'm excited.
Yeah, this show definitely has like revamped my excitement for the MCU, and I was really wondering what direction they were going to take after Endgame, because I mean Thanos is just such a good villain, and like, you know, something they've built up for over literal decade, with all these like 20 some movies were all pointing to this one direction, and I was just like, man, how are they going to top that? Like what do you even do story wise after that? But so far what we're seeing with, you know, being able to deal with the grief of losing people that you cared about, and like these people having to come back and find their spot in society after, you know, being dust, like, you know, all these new types of heroes. I thought the introduction of Monica was really cool.
So excited for Captain Marvel 2.
Yeah, it should be. And you know, we got the Skrulls back there at the post credit scenes. That's cool. You have, you know, possibly Vision living on as White Vision with his now memories back from Hex Vision.
Question about White Vision. I literally went back through the previous 2 episodes and was like, where the hell did he come from? Like, did I miss something? Like, he just showed up.
So like,
and like they just kind of assumed I knew.
Yeah,
I
like,
must have missed it. I don't know.
Halfway through the series, they're just like, every episode's gonna have a post-credit scene.
Right.
Okay, so it was halfway through they decided that.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's so.
And I think they did it mostly because it started becoming more Marvel. Like that's how I took it, because like, the first like 3 were not Marvel at all, and then as it was the MCU was coming back through, it's like, hey, we always have a post-credit scene. We need to do post-credit scenes. So like that's how I always saw it, as that happening. So
this guy.
No, that makes sense. But I was wondering when it started, because when I saw Quicksilver or whatever, like tap her on the shoulder when she found the basement, I was like, wait a second. Like, I've been missing post-credit scenes for a while now. So that was annoying.
That was the first one.
Yeah. I think
that was the first one.
Well, then that was like episode 8 or 7 or 8.
I think it was
like
6.
Okay, maybe I've seen them. I don't know, but that was an annoyance I had with the show. I don't know how I feel about post-credit scenes in every episode of a series. That's annoying to me.
Hey, you got to watch all of them back to back.
Well, that's
wait weeks.
That was the problem though, is because I was like, all right, next episode. Like I wasn't sitting there like pining for, you know, I was done. You know, I had nothing else to watch. I had a next episode to watch. So
that's true.
Well, so, that was, I think, part of the aggravation of the first episodes, though, was that the credits were so long. We're like, there's 7 minutes left. They're going to have something secret.
I just kept doing this. I was like, I don't see anything. I don't see anything.
Yeah, what is it with these Disney shows? Like, The Mandalorian had the most ridiculously long credits, too. You look at the episode time, you're like, wow, 42 minutes. But
big episode,
like 30-minute episode, and like
8 minutes.
Yeah,
I mean, I will say they're pretty to look at, but after you've seen it like once or twice, it's like I got it. Like,
well, And the Mandalorian did this too. There's the pretty version that happens
Right.
first, and
Right.
then there's the walls
the
of
credits.
text.
All the
Yeah,
people they don't care about anymore. They're like, oh, what these people worked on it too, whatever.
yeah. I don't
Right.
know. I mean, it's very nice of them to very slowly acknowledge absolutely every person that had a hand in it. But
Someone's mom is happy.
yeah, someone
You have to wait till
don't
the
turn it
very
off
end.
yet.
Yeah, that's my boy.
I don't know if that's like if that is the explanation of the post-credit scenes, like just randomly starting. But Kevin, if you're listening, I know you are.
I wish.
Pay this man at least $5, and then use that as your explanation as to why you randomly started adding post-credit scenes halfway through the season.
You have to sign Kevin on it though, and the
Yeah,
$5. Because
Just
then, I mean, what's $5? Yeah, just Kevin. I don't need the last name.
He should sign up for the highest level of their Patreon because that cold brew kicks in. That's worth subscribing alone because the way you guys tier that, and then the fourth one just that cold brew's really kicking in. Yeah.
I was naming them. I'm like, wait, we have this, and I'm like, they must be bonkers and like hopped up on caffeine if they want to join that one.
We have this constant battle within ourselves of like, we're called a bite of because we take a bite of a property, like one bite each week. But I want everything to be a food pun. And he's like, we're not a food podcast. You need to...
No, lean into it. Just go all in.
Whenever the sentence is, help you digest the most appetizing menu of pop culture, I'm like, that's way too much.
Yes,
I'm like, I
let's
can't.
keep going.
Yes,
More
yes.
food puns.
can't.
Yes.
Oh man, only if you guys start doing video versions and you're wearing like a chef hat and like an apron.
Just cooking while we're doing a normal
Yeah.
episode.
Making a sandwich. Doesn't even have to be fancy. Just a turkey sandwich.
I love it. So any last thoughts or maybe theories? Let's do this. I don't think this can be quick, but maybe like where do you see the MCU like heading in phase 4? Like, do you have any bold predictions or like anything that maybe we have seen in WandaVision that might transpire into something bigger in either like another movie or just like become the overarching story arc of phase 4?
I mean, I think like, you know, the initial timeline or seeing the lineup of everything, it was like, oh, I can kind of maybe see where they might be going. Like something big has to be happening further this way. But then since now it's all jumbled up, and with now the Fantastic Four apparently coming at some point, I just think, I mean, I have no idea. And it's like, it's terrifying, but also really exciting at the same time because it's like, how do I prepare for this? Like, what do I need to prepare for? But I really feel like we might be getting our answers with either Miss Marvel or Doctor Strange. So that's my theory. I feel like we're going to start seeing more of like the greater phase 4 stuff in Miss Marvel or Doctor Strange, personally.
I personally am just really excited for some more like diversity in our leading characters. I think what was so exciting about WandaVision was that it was Wanda. You know, it's a female character leading this entire storyline. Vision was there, but it was really about her grief and what she was dealing with. And I think going forward, we're going to have Monica now playing a larger role in some things. We're going to have Jane coming in as Thor, which is really exciting.
Literally playing a larger role.
Yes,
I don't know if you've seen
literally.
pictures of her, but her arms are jacked.
She's jacked.
I mean, she was like, oh, I'm going to hold the hammer. Okay, wait a second. Let me bulk up a bit here.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Exciting.
I'm really excited about sort of seeing this universe and the characters that they're focusing on. Like even with Ms. Marvel coming, that's incredibly exciting, having it branch out and seeing the diversity in the MCU really kind of blossom now.
Yeah, I have no theories on who the big bad would be for like the foreseeable. If they're doing it in like 3 chunks, I guess, like the last one. Oh man, I think it's too early to tell at this point. Too early to call.
What are you talking about? 9 episodes. No.
Yeah, we didn't get that Mephisto reveal, so we're still all in the dark here.
Yes. Nick, so being such a big fan of the MCU, where do you think we're going?
You know, I wish I had a catalog of source material that I could take any kind of educated guess. I don't know. I hope for more limited series. You know, I'd be cool with all of them being limited series and no like repeated double seasons. Weaved in with the movies.
Yeah.
I think definitely a wider, more connected catalog of different, you know, like shows and movies is definitely needed, and they're going to be doing that a lot more. So I think that's all I'm really able to comment on is just like the direction of the format. I like the direction of the format and where that's going. It's much more palatable to me because I know previously, you know, they tried to tie in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and that it is tied in and it isn't. And there's multiple seasons. Like to me, that's just too much and it confuses me and it's just way too into the weeds maybe.
Also, who watched it?
Right. See, that's why I don't watch it because it's not important enough. Now, if they do a good enough job and they just start tying it all together as we move in through phase 4, maybe they'll make it needed to go back and watch that stuff. Not sure, but it's like I said earlier, it's definitely earning points for me as far as something I'm going to be more invested in over time here.
I will say I really like the idea of using these mini series or limited series or whatever to develop these characters that were more side characters. Like leave Doctor Strange and Spider-Man and Captain Marvel, like let them have their 2-hour movies, and then all these side characters that get sprinkled in, like WandaVision, like Sam and Bucky, like Hawkeye, like who's Don Cheadle's character? I can't remember, but he's got like Don Cheadle's character, War Machine.
Oh, War Machine.
Armor Wars, coming, and like those are such great tools to really develop these characters and kind of get us familiar with them. So when they do show up for like that 15-minute, portion of an Infinity War or Endgame, you're like, oh yeah, I know that guy. It's not like, who the heck is that cool dude? I hope I see him more sometime.
Yeah, and it's nice that now series and movies are on the same level production value wise.
Right. Yeah.
That it makes some characters just make way more sense as a series. Like Wanda's a perfect series character. So is, all these side characters, if you will, not to depreciate their value, but there's certain characters that I feel like just fit better as a series versus obviously the ones that make way more sense as a movie, like Thor, Iron Man, like those make perfect trilogy characters, right? They're big events that happen. They're involved in really big singular story arcs, nothing too deep. And then there's these characters that just fit perfect into this series where you want to watch it every week and, learn way more than now about what took, I guess, 5-6 movies of Iron Man being in, to really learn about him.
Right.
Yeah. So all that to say, I think we're all excited about where the MCU is heading and what Phase 4 has in store for us. So we're running, a little long. It might be a little longer than you guys are used to, but we're right there in our sweet spot. So let's move on. I have a few comments from our Facebook followers. I put out there, since Becca and I, my wife and I, are rewatching Infinity War and Endgame. I threw out there, hey, what are some of your favorite moments from those two movies? And we got some replies. So let's see what they said. Brian Burke, our good friend from Be Hero Fights, he says, so many. Why is Gamora? I don't want to go, Mr. Stark. On your left. But my favorite scene has to be Cap, the Thunder God. I'm assuming he's referring to when he summons the hammer, which, holy cow, that was so epic.
That, like, I feel bad for everybody that didn't see that in theaters because from 2008 to, I can't remember when Endgame came out, but to have that entire experience building up to this one moment and then having just like wait, Cap has the hammer now? It's like it's just level on level. It was such a
Yeah.
fan service thing. It was so smart. That I mean, I want to say I teared up on that part because like I read comics forever and like seeing that on the
Yeah.
screen, you never thought you would see that. Oh, so cool.
Dude, I tear up
agree.
over things like that all the time too. Like sometimes even like the Avengers theme will start playing and I'm like, oh gosh, where's the Kleenex?
Noah gets hyped every time
Every
that
time.
Avengers theme plays.
Oh,
he
yeah.
cannot handle it.
So
Yeah,
good.
I looked at him and I was like, when we heard the one in WandaVision, I was like, I've missed this. Like, I didn't know I needed this theme. It's so good.
So good. We had another one from my friend and neighbor Garrett Price. He says, "Bruh, I could go on for days, but the moment Cap got Thor's hammer, and when I feel like that should just be everyone's default answer." But then he said, "And when Stark died and told his daughter he loved her 3000s, those are the two
Oh.
that stick out most." And
Oof.
yes, that I mean, as a father now, like that whole thing, like literally waterworks. I'm just like, I can't even do it.
They did such a good job with, regardless of what you would say about the like original, the 3 Iron Man movies, it's like, yeah, he's kind of a dick and you don't really like him. You're not supposed to like him, but his whole character growth to that point, and then like having a daughter and being selfless instead of selfish, is
Mhm.
just, I mean, it's so good. I have to give him props for that. And also, I hate them for doing that. That's awful.
Yeah. During our rewatch, she throws that out as he's tucking her in, and I'm like, oh no, I know what that leads to.
Mhm.
I know what that leads to. But yeah, can't argue with that, Garrett. Then my wife says, which by the way, Modern Day Design 16 on Instagram. You should go follow her if you're into home DIY, all that kind of crazy stuff. She's a savant. She says, "Rip my beloved Iron Man," with a bunch of crying emojis, and I think that's also a common feeling.
Right.
But like you said, I mean, they really did a great job of humanizing Tony Stark and like helping us remember that he does have a heart and a soul. Like,
regardless if it's powered by whatever type of energy, it's there.
Well, that's that. I don't know where this is back to the whole like absorbing, the social media and other people's thoughts, but there's that meme where, Tony and Steve exchanged lines in probably different movies, but where Tony told Captain that everything special about you came from a bottle, and then he also at another time told Tony where he's not the one to make the sacrifice for the team, but they both ended up fulfilling that because he got the hammer, he made the sacrifice.
are you literally looking at our Facebook post because that is the
Did you
meme
do that? Okay,
for,
good.
for this post?
All right, yeah, that's the meme. That one's really good, and that sums it up.
Age, guys.
I saw it in our Discord social media channel. That's
right.
right.
Another reason to get in the Discord, guys. And then this one's a big one, so I hope you're comfortable. Our friend Mallory Borelli, Big Mal from The Office. She's
not The Office. Our work. Our work.
We actually work together, and she's
I was
from-
like trying to think in my head. I'm like, wait.
Oh, Big Mal from The Office.
I've seen The Office 10 times, all seasons. Who's Mallory?
You mean Meredith?
Yeah.
Mallory's not a big girl, so I hope that didn't come across as like some kind of like body shaming. I apologize, Mallory. But she says Infinity War favorites: Thor meets Guardians, all of Drax's lines. He's not a dude, you're a dude. This is a man, a handsome, muscular man. It's like a pirate and an angel had a baby. I mean, Drax is just hysterical. Thanos sacrificing Gamora for the stone. It kind of gave him a human side and emotion to his character to know he actually loved something, and loved was in quotation marks. So I just wanted to point that out. And obviously the snap happening and all the people disappearing, pretty significant. Things that she hated: when Loki dies at the beginning. I love Loki, the Loki character, and for some reason, so sad he dies when he finally had one of his good moments. Endgame favorites: the whole scene where Ant-Man is just listing all the time travel movies just to find out they're all BS. Obviously, any scene with Thor being the dude, again, hilarious. Tony Stark going back in time, getting to meet and talk to his dad before he was born. I appreciate that he had that moment again, like, humanizing Tony Stark. And of course, Nat sacrificing herself for Hawkeye to get the stone. Super sad but significant moment. Hawkeye had a family, blah, blah, blah. This was Nat's chance to do to right all of her wrongs from the past. Things that she hated from Endgame: Tony Stark dying at the end, even though that was the way it had to be for the one and only successful outcoming. And this might open up a whole can of worms, but I have to read it because she commented. And super, super hated the girl power scene at the end with all the girl characters gathering with Captain Marvel. So forced, just to add feminism to the movie. Very dumb, could have done without. We'll leave our opinions on that for another time.
Can I
Yes, go for it. Go.
The only thing, I mean, I think it's obviously everybody can have their own opinion with it. I think for them to have a scene like that, unless it like set up this whole big thing for them to be next to each other, then it wouldn't have made sense. But if you think about it, most of this superhero stuff, look at the Avengers. There's 6 core members. 1 is female. We finally have all these other females that are in there. All these movies we've been watching has had that same exact scene, but with all males, or mostly males. So for them to like finally do that scene, but with all women, just to be like, hey, look, we can do the same thing with all women. I didn't have a problem with it personally. I thought it was like cool. I get to see all of these characters. Also, you get to see them. I don't know if that was also part of why they did it. They're like, hey, here's Wasp, here's this person, they are here, they're back, and they're present in this moment. But, I don't have a problem with it. If the guys can do it, the girls can do it. Come on. That's my 2 cents.
I grew up on Sailor Moon, so anytime that there's a group of badass females, I am about it. So, it's good stuff.
There you go. But that wraps up our comments. Thank you guys for chiming in. It's always fun to talk about what you guys submit, and thank you so much. So whenever we have people on the show, we like to end our interviews with one simple question that usually doesn't turn out to be simple at all, but to go along with our shtick here, our film and movie and TV related episodes, they're typically titled "What's Watching?" So we just want to know. I mean, obviously you've been watching WandaVision, but what's watching with a bite of? What have you guys been watching besides WandaVision?
Oh man, I think because of WandaVision, we're like in super sitcom mode. So we've been watching The New Adventures of Old Christine with who's in it?
With
Louis Dreyfus.
Yeah, Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Yeah, and it's so funny. It's on HBO Max.
And we also just started watching on Apple TV Dickinson with Haley Steinfeld, which is like sort of a satirical, sort of modern, but not really take on Emily Dickinson. And that's pretty interesting as well.
I'm with that series. I think it's like...
It has its moments.
Have you seen Bridgerton at all?
My wife slammed that out like
Same.
Bridgerton.
in like 8 hours. She somehow watched the entire series. I don't understand how it's possible, but
we got requested to do that. So like our Patreon, people can request to have us do an episode, and everybody was like, do Bridgerton. And we're like, okay. We did the first episode, and then we were like, do you kind of want to keep watching this show? Because it's kind of like it's scandalous, and it's just like a hot mess, and you can't help but watch it. But I felt like what Bridgerton did well was they mixed a little bit of modern with that timepiece. Dickerson is doing too much modern with a timepiece in it, and it's throwing me off too much. It throws me way off. Like they say normal words like "what's
Right.
up" and "dude."
She'll be like just chilling.
Yeah, she'll be like just chilling, but then she'll recite this poetry, and I'm like, what?
What's
Yeah.
going on? My
That's very-
brain.
Yeah, that's yeah, no, thank you.
It's weird. It's well
Yeah.
done though. But
Right.
Nice. Actually, Nick, we haven't done like a what's watching episode lately. So like, what are you watching? I mean, we know you also just finished WandaVision.
I
But
just finished WandaVision. I need to get back to Peaky Blinders. I made some very good progress there, but that's still in limbo. I mostly have a lot of things I want to start per usual. Still slowly working through the last season of Schitt's Creek just because we're savoring the life out of that thing, because until I hear there's going to be like another 5 seasons, I don't know, but
it's like you don't watch it, it doesn't end.
right. Yeah, if you don't watch it, it won't end.
You guys, he's literally had like 4 episodes of Schitt's Creek left for like
No,
4
okay.
Like
No.
it's been ridiculous.
No, that's not true. So I thought there was only 5 seasons and we thought we were near the end. Then we finished it and we're like, was that the end? And you look and it's like, there's a whole nother season.
Surprise!
Yes. So
Yeah.
so it's revived what already we thought we were milking is now even further milked.
Surprise.
So
That's good.
nothing too exciting there. Our gaming problem right now is really putting a kink in things.
It's bad.
It's really bad.
We've been super addicted to this theme called Valheim. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's basically Viking Minecraft, and we can't stop building long houses and chopping down trees. It's really bad.
I'm building a legit castle. Like,
Yeah, like all grown men should.
yeah.
That sounds productive to me. I don't know what you guys are talking about time wasting. You're building a castle.
Yeah. I've actually secretly been playing this entire time.
Surprise.
But yeah, so I think that wraps it up tonight. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Why don't you plug your stuff again? We have your website up, down at the bottom of the screen now. But yeah, go plug all your stuff. Where can we find you?
I mean, everywhere.
Yeah, you can find us on Instagram at A Bite of Pod. You can find us on YouTube at A Bite of. You can find us on any platform that you like listening to your podcasts at A Bite of. And we're on Facebook as well at A Bite of.
I mean, literally, probably the website is the easiest one because it's all there in one big hub, as people should know. But yeah, abiteofpod.com, and we have our new season coming out in a week and a half. So
There
I
you
wonder
go.
what that aligns with. Oh well.
Wonder.
it wasn't planned, I don't know.
Yes, and join their Discord. It's so fun. It's a very fun place to be. And join our Discord because it's also a fun place to be. And
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but like we really have been leaning into the Discord as like our main source of engagement with our audience and just being able to, I don't know, I feel like the interaction tools and level there on Discord is just so much better than anywhere else. But yeah, thanks again, guys. This turned out, so awesome. It was super fun getting to learn more about A Bite of and then get to go real deep into WandaVision. If you're watching the YouTube video and you like what you heard, please subscribe. It'll really help us out. Share our posts with your friends, and rate and review our episodes wherever you're listening to them. For those of you who chimed in on Facebook and Instagram, thank you so much. Your feedback is always welcome and appreciated. And until next time, have a good one. Good night.
Bye.